Good evening to you all in Europe. Good morning, good afternoon for those of you who are tuning in from further afield. This is your first time you've tuned in, then welcome along. Please do check out our other videos over on our IGTV. We've had some great chats with some fantastic people from across the VW and Porsche community, and I think you're really going to enjoy those if you've not seen those yet. Good evening, sir.
Hello, how you doing?
Quick intro, and then we'll be through to you. Let us know where you're watching from. Show us your flags and give your country a shout out below. As you can see, this evening the game's been given away by the bearded gentleman sat in the van at the bottom of your screen. I'm Andy. I've worked at Heritage Parts Centre for the past 12 years. I spend a lot of my time meeting people, creating stories about them and their vehicles, and then doing these videos as well. Joining us for the 6th of our series of live chats tonight, the editor of Volksworld magazine, Mr. Paul Knight. Having contributed towards most VW and Porsche titles over the past 20 years or so, certainly some tales to be told. So hang on to your hats, buckle up your beards. Here we go.
Hi.
How's it going?
Yeah, all good, thanks. Yeah, been a busy day, but plenty of time for you guys. Good to see you.
Awesome.
Fire away. Yeah.
Cool. Shall we start with your current job? You've just taken over as editor of Volksworld.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's not your first time on the magazine, is that right?
No. I mean, recently I've been working there, doing freelance stuff. But the first time I started work at Volkswagen was back in 2000. 2000. I think January 2000. I'd been teaching. I was like a graphic design lecturer, and obviously my dream job had always been to work at Volksworld, and purely by chance, really, the planets aligned, and Mike Pye decided, he was working there as features editor at the time, decided to go travel the world, I think South America and all that kind of stuff, and Ivan McCutcheon was editor at the time, advertised, that they were looking for somebody there. I applied, I sent in, some information, I think I actually sent in a feature that I designed that was like how to dechrome your car. And so it was all laid out, all, the pictures in there, sort of ready to roll. He liked it, called me up, I went up there, and got the job. So I went from what was sort of quite a well-paid job at the time to quite a poorly paid job, to be perfectly honest. But hey, I'd kick myself if I hadn't tried it, and looking back now, it was the best decision I ever made. So yeah. So I was. That was 2000. I was there for about just under 4 years, I think. Before we moved on. So yeah, there you go. Second time around.
I'm guessing then the VWs came before the magazine. You're into
Yes, they did. Yeah, it was. It's a funny crossover, and I know we've seen this from a few other people as well. But there is a crossover between graphic design and in the magazine scene.
Neil's similar the other week.
Exactly. I mean, Niels is still doing it, so to speak. So, but yeah, I've been a graphic designer for a while, and I was working at the family business, and then but also. It's a tricky one to describe. We had like a family printers business, but behind it was a workshop. And my father, Bob, and I, we were restoring cars there. So it was definitely cars. And then, we were just rebuilding cars, having fun. And then the magazine come along. So yeah, we kind of took it from there. But I already had, plenty of cars behind me, and I couldn't get enough of them at that point in time. So yeah, yes.
What was your first car?
My first car. Well, again, my first car was actually a bright yellow 70s bug that I bought completely stock, and I think I was about 16 then, and as ever working on it in my spare time, tinkering away, fitting engines, changing the colour. It was spectacular when we finished. It was in PVW magazine actually, and just when they just started doing air-cooled cars, that was. But anyway, yeah, that was my first car, but it wasn't finished when I got my driving license at 17 and just crashed the driving lessons. 4 weeks later, got my license, went to Cornwall, the usual. But the car wasn't ready at that point, so I bought another Beetle, just a cheap It was a bright orange 1200 with a sliding sunroof.
Okay.
Great car, you know, not particularly solid. Had, I don't know, 460,000 miles on the clock, I think. But that was actually my first car. That car was great, and I used that for a couple of years while I finished the purple car off. And it actually went on to be my wife's first car. And she used it as well for a few years, but maybe didn't enjoy it quite as much as I did. But there you go. So yeah, the purple car was my first car, but the orange car was the first car I drove.
Fair enough. And did you meet your wife by selling her that car, or were you already together? Or?
No, we were already together at that point, and that's always been, you know, it's been great for me because Jo's been as into the cars as I have, you know. So she never feels like, you know, a Volkswagen widow. She's always she's been part of it since day dot. She loves the cars as much as I do. The whole family do. You know, my kids love it. So yeah, very lucky in that aspect.
Yeah, 100%. So before you kind of came around to Volksworld second time round, you sort of spent a few years messing around with the newer things, didn't you? You did a stint on VWT.
That's right. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I mean, I've always been an air-cooled guy, but you know, you can't ignore the late vans, the T5s and the T6s. They're always at the show, and I mean, let's be honest, pretty much everybody I know owns a late van. You know, they're not necessarily all show cars. They're generally, you know, their camper or their work hack or whatever it is. But yeah, so you know, I've been kind of tinkering with newer vans. And then Jimbo, who was editor of VWT, decided he was off to pastures new, and he called me up and he said, "Look, do you fancy, you know, taking over as editor of this mag?" And it was, I wouldn't say it was a culture shock, but it was another world. You know, it was. I'm not going to lie to you, I didn't. Although I'd owned a bunch of them. You know, I've had a T4 Gypsy. Before that, I had a T4 California that I imported from Germany. I had a T25 with an Audi V6 TDI motor and a Porsche gearbox, and you know, and so I've had a string of water-cooled vans, but this was the first time I'd really got involved, sort of, you know, on a magazine level. And but I'll be perfectly honest with you, greatest bunch of guys. You know, we're all VW people at heart. It doesn't matter if you love your air-cooled or you love your water-cooled. It's the passion, and it's there, you know, and really accepting guys. I did it for about a couple of years, and I say absolutely loved it. The only reason I stopped doing it was to take Volksworld on. But yeah, got really into it. Bought a T5, which I'm in at the moment. And you know, don't get me wrong, I still love my air-cooled, but this is just a great daily, you know, hack. And it's reliable. I'm getting it. It starts fine. You know, never lets me down. Touch wood. And you know. You know, I won't make it home now. I said that, but yeah. So you know, it kind of, you know, it all made sense at the time, and now we've moved on, and we're back to air cooled. But I'm still using this van all the time. As today, I've been out doing photographs in the T5, and you know, God bless my air cools, but they're not always as reliable as this one.
So you mentioned a few cars there. What have you got in your collection?
Right. Oh, well, there was a time, if you'd have asked me this, I probably wouldn't have been able to list them all. You know, when we had the workshop, I'd literally come home and think, oh, gosh, if I need to get that car out, I need to move this one, you know, just to get to one of them. But right now, I'm a little bit older, a little bit lazy. I've had kids, and we haven't got the workshop anymore, so it's a much smaller collection now. I've got my T4 Gypsy, the big coach built thing, with you know, bathroom, hot water, double glazing, perfect for camping. I've got this, the T5, TDI, slam, all that business. I've got a little Beetle that I'm working on with my son Oscar, 68 Beetle, which actually I spoke to you about not so long ago, and I bought some wheels from Heritage, the slot mags. Slot mags, yeah. That's it, the slot mags. So we've got the slot mags on there, and drop spindles, but we're just working on. I promised my wife that I wouldn't butcher this one, but what she doesn't know is in the garage. What she does know now, but in the garage at the moment is a 4-inch narrowed air ride beam that we're doing, you know, for that. So that was, you know, a little father-son project, I suppose. And other than that, it's my 62 notchback, my blue 62, which I've had for 25 years. That's it.
And the notch has got an interesting story, isn't it?
Well, in as much as I've owned it for a long, long time, but yeah, it was. God, blimey. So if we go back 25 years, plus maybe. I was restoring cars with Bob, with my dad. We'd done a lot of Beetles and that kind of stuff, and a few vans. But something I was always really passionate about Typefreaks, really interested in them. Didn't know a huge amount about them. Everyone told me they were hard work and you should avoid them. Typical, got to have one now.
Yeah.
So we found one through Luke Diachari at Terry's Beetle Services.
Yeah.
He said, come and have a look at, I've got one here, and we got there, it's just bare metal rust, basically. It had been blasted and then parked outside, and it was just ginger. But it had a load of welding done, and I thought, well, this is a cool little car. So, back then I was building a lot of cars, with my father. A pair of us build them together, then we'd sell them, build another one, that kind of thing. So anyway, we restored it, we did loads of work on it, bought another donor car for the glass and the trim and all that kind of stuff. It was just a bare shell, really. And did far too much work, to be perfectly honest. And then we finished it, hadn't really discussed what we were going to do with it, whether we were going to sell it or whatever, but but Dad knew that I really, really liked this one. It was, it was something special. And then on my 21st birthday, he gave me a waistcoat, actually, which had been trimmed by Bernard Newbury, of all people. It's the first time we'd made any clothing. and in the pocket were the keys to the car. And he went, there you go, that's your one. He said, we've worked on these cars, that's your car. And so it was, greatest gift anyone could give me. It was, and I've still got the car today. I suppose I used it for about 2 years on the show circuit, picked up loads of trophies for that car, and it's kind of what launched us into the whole Typefreak scene, if you like. We, it's hard to explain. We were doing a lot of Beetles and a lot of vans. That car came along, then we started doing a lot of notchbacks, fastbacks, a couple of squarebacks. And it was quite an instrumental car in what we were doing at that point. And as I say, I've still got it today. In fact, I had it running yesterday, but we were out and about in it. All that's changed in 25 years is I've changed the wheels. It's got a set of sprint stars on it now. I narrowed a set of 5-lug sprints. So we've got 4-inch on the front, 6s on the rears. Got short axles on it, and otherwise it is exactly as it was 25 years ago. Still starts on the keys, still driving it sort of regularly. And I've got no plans to ever sell that one. I'm doing a little bit of work on it at the moment. Just picked up a gearbox for it, and hopefully, if things go to plan, I'll get some air ride on the front and that. It looks cool, but it's a bit too low. The usual story is getting old. But so it's been an interesting car, one that I've had a lot of fun with. Yeah.
If we go back, obviously it's back in the day, you're from Southend, is that right?
That's right. Yeah. Yep, Southend.
A bit of a hub for like the UK air-cooled scene. What was it like growing up with when it was all Bermuda shorts and neon graphics? In kind of hub of it all. It wasn't necessarily all Bermuda shorts and all that business, but it was interesting. There was a big scene, and there still is today. When I was growing up, I suppose the first modified VW I was ever aware of was a Beetle that was belonged to a guy just up the road, and he used to drive past. And I was probably 13, 14 at that point, and it was years before I realised who it was, but it actually turned out to be John Golding from Homegrown Hot Rods, who probably one of the most influential sort of hot rod builders in the world these days. So that was kind of the car, I suppose, that probably sparked my interest. And then, we used to have the Saturday night cruises at Southend down the Golden Mile. There'd be all kinds of stuff down there, escorts and hot rods and a few VWs. And, as I say, every back street had a car down there. And, when I was like 14, 15, everywhere I went, VWs, loved it. It was great. And I think it's quite interesting. Actually, the first car I ever left a note on to see if it was for sale was an old Carmen Ghia in grey primer, and it looked battered, and it sat on the side of the road. I'd literally walk past it on the way to school every day, and I'd look at it and think, this needs some love, this needs some attention. This car, someone's neglecting it. So I didn't have any money at the time. I just left a cheeky note, I'm a poor student, I'd love to restore this car, blah blah blah, and I got a call from the owner, all credit to them, they could have just thrown that note in the bin. And the owner explained that, that he was actually restoring it, and, it was a project, and he had a lot of work on, and he was really chatty, really helpful. And that was actually the first time I met
or had spoken to Richard King from Car Connection, and it was his car. and now I know he still lives in the same house. It was parked outside. But yeah, so it's, you know, it is a small world there. You know, it's a very small world in Southend. Lots of great characters there. I mean, you know, from there. You know, from there we had Car Connection, obviously. German Car Company was, you know, on the doorstep. Howard Dalton at Flat 4 Engineering. There was, you know, Simply VW guys. You know, there was a lot going on in Southend. And, you know, just up the road was Big Boys Toys and an SSP. That's where I first met Barney and Paul and Ben Pascoe, who you work with every day. And, you know, and I say they were 10 miles away, so we literally had everything on the doorstep. You know, Southend was the hub, and to be perfectly honest, I still see air-cooled cars every day. You know, from my house, I think within a mile of my house there are 4 notchbacks, you know, parked up. That's pretty unusual. And you know, if you ask me to find you as a 15 window, you know, I could drive you to someone within a mile that's got a 15 window van. There's a barn door Samba not far up the road there, and you know, there is a whole load still going on here. It's, you know, we haven't got the shops that we had, we haven't got the cruising scene that we had, but you know, the people's still there. So yeah, it was good. Very good.
I guess let's go on to this. So you often kind of at events and photo shoots with Jolly Jim. Do you want to give him a little shout out and also talk about Still Doing It as well?
Still doing it. Look, we're here. Oh blimey! Well, yeah, Jim's like my brother from another mother, I suppose. He's if I'm going on a road trip, he is the start and the finish of a road trip. You know, if you want to have a great weekend, you know, it's always going to be nuts when he's involved. And he's as passionate about the scene as I am, and as anyone is. You know, we first met. I mean, he's got that drag racing notchback, and I think between us, we've owned those cars for 50 years, you know. And we first met when I was trying to buy his car, obviously before he owned it, and I was a cheapskate, and I made a cheeky offer, and he just came in and paid full price. So that was how we first met, and literally, you know, I see him pretty much every day. He comes on photo shoots with me. He's driven nearly every tracking and action shot I've ever taken. So Still Doing It was it started as a bit of a joke, actually. It was Christ, I'll go for it. I'll cut it as short as I can. Years and years ago, in the 90s, Jim bumped into Dino Don Chamberlain at a VW show in England when he was over here and he was MCing. And that's the first time we met, and they cracked off, you know, a great relationship because they're both the same crazy kind of guy at heart. You know, they're nuts. Obviously, Dino was famous for laying naked next to his notchback. Jim would do the same. You know, click your fingers, he's there doing it. So those guys got on great. Fast forward to, I don't know, 6 years ago, we were at EBI. Dino Don's at EBI. Haven't seen him since, and you'd think, you know, they'd not seen each other for, you know, 2 days. They were just, you know, bouncing off each other. So anyway, Dino's obviously explaining that, you know, he had some health issues and that he'd had to slow down and calm down a bit. And he's, you know, he kind of said, "Hey Jim, not like you know, you're still crazy." And Jim went, "Yeah, still doing it," you know. And that was kind of where Still Doing It began. So and from there, Jim sort of jumped on it. So I made him a logo. Actually, Simon Pollock, the forest, did the design logo for us. You know, God bless him. And we made a little sticker, and then at Volksworld show a few years ago, Jim was walking around with the stickers, basically handing them out to people that he thought were still doing it, people that were been around the scene for years, you know, people that had been involved, you know, that had a story to tell. So he was giving them stickers, doing a little bit on Instagram, and it's kind of grown from there, really. It's just, you know, it's not anything serious. It's just a bit of fun. He's got loads of stickers. If you see him at a show and you want one of the stickers, they look like that kind of thing. You know, go and find Jim. He'll hand you a sticker. He'll tell you the story, bore you to tears, I'm sure. But we're actually having our van site the 2 T5s. He's got T6 actually, and I've got T5. We're having big logos put on the side of those next week, I think. Not for any reason other than we just thought it'd be fun to drive around and advertisers Still Doing It everywhere we go. And it's become a bit of a mantra, really. You know, we go to shows, people shout Still Doing It across the car park. It's just great fun. You know, it's everybody that's got a sticker is somebody Jim knows or I know, and you know, hopefully we'll carry on giving these stickers out for years and years. So yeah, there's your Still Doing It story.
Awesome. Let's talk about Ultra VW. That was kind of a real baby for you. Can you talk about how that kind of came about, and then also your emotions when it came to kind of close it as well.
Well, yeah, okay. So how it came about? Yeah, it was a bold move, I suppose, because I've been at Volkswagen for a few years, well, nearly 4 years actually, and I mean, the way it came about was odd, really. I had my eldest was on the way, and I was working at Volkswagen. It was a 2-hour drive each way every day, and don't get me wrong, it was the craziest office to work in, literally the craziest office you can imagine you'd ever work in. And but it was a huge amount of fun. But there came a point where I was driving 2 hours, literally for not. It seemed like just for madness, really. I was doing it because I loved it. I wasn't earning a lot of money. I needed to get my life back on track, really. I'd had my fun. I said to my missus, "Okay, that's fine. You do the baby thing. I'll do the the earning some money thing." So my initial plan was to go back to teaching and flip a few cars, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I handed my notice, and then kind of out of the blue, I was talking to Keith Hume actually, and he'd left Volksworld earlier in the year. Now he approached me and said, "Look, I've been talking to this guy, Clive Howsam. He runs CH Publications. He launched 911 on Porsche. He had a VW back in the 80s. He had a black Karma Gear that was, a cool car back in the 80s. He said, would you come on board? We're going to do something a little bit different, more kind of independent style, a reflection of the scene, really good quality stuff, great cars, great photography." And I was like, well, yeah, I'd love to, but I can't be doing all the travelling that I was doing before. So anyway, he said, go and talk to Clive. So I went to Surrey, spoke to Clive, and Clive was talking my language. He's a really good guy, super keen. And he just kind of, he said to me, look, come on board, work from home, tick the box for me, let's give this a go and see how it goes. And that was, that was back in 2003, and we ran for 14 years. It's just the greatest time. He was really cool. Just let's go with whatever you want. There was no limits on content, so I was literally running everything that I love. Basically, if you went to a show, that's what was in Ultra VW. So we'd have Porsches in there. I think we were the first magazine to run the occasional sort of water-cooled T4, T5, long before VWT came along. We'd run new Beetles. It was a great fun magazine. Then we changed publisher a couple of times. It was an awesome run, but I got the call one day. We'd ended up with the same publisher owning Volksworld and Ultra VW. And I mean, quite frankly, nobody really needed two very similar VW magazines. So the publisher spoke to us, and he said, "Look, what we're going to do, we're going to merge the magazines. We're going to integrate Ultra VW into Volksworld." And that's basically what happened. So, I became a contributor for Volksworld, a couple of features a month with Ian. But I was also, it was actually it was a shame for Ultra to disappear, but it was I'd spent so long being an editor, and it kind of, not got dull, but it was hard work. I was sat behind a computer and I was looking at the contributors, and they were out driving around, photographing cars, and I was like, do you know what, this is my opportunity to get back to what I love. So I ended up sort of contributing to Camper Bus Mag, VWT, and then that sort of developed into the Porsche Mags, 911 and Porsche World, Classic Porsche, and I also doing stuff with Niels and Air Mighty and Docker, Air Cooled Way, and magazines everywhere, all kinds of stuff. So, and it was a nice break. I'd lost that constant, right, you've got 28 days to get this magazine done. Chase, screaming at people down the phone, where's this feature? And I was now the person that people were screaming at down the phone, where's the feature? So, but it was good. And, so I've had a few years sort of back out on the road, photographing cars, polished my photography skills up, which was always handy. And I really loved it. So it was a double-edged sword. I was disappointed to see Ultra go, but I had a lot of fun doing the other stuff, and here we are today, back at Volkswagen, back on editorial. But hopefully, I'll combine the two and carry on doing the contributor for other mags, and also photographing a bit more for Volkswagen too. So yeah, all circle really.
You must have been to quite a lot of VW shows, obviously, over the years. Have you got particular favourites?
Oh God, yeah. Obviously, the Volkswagen shows is my favourite, but I mean, well, let's talk about overseas shows. That's probably a good place to start. So let's go with. There's always one for me, and Jean-Marie Mears, you owe me a beer for this, but the greatest show on earth without a doubt, is Le Bug Show, Spa. You know, there's I've been to shows in America, Australia, all over the place. You know, all the British shows. British guys do a wicked show. Don't get me wrong. You know, but nobody tops that Belgian madness, and it's you know, Formula One track. It's just awesome. You know, you go there. There are cars from all over the world. There's cars on the track. You've got 6, 7, 8 countries. You know, some of these guys are driving for 4 days from Denmark and Sweden and Norway. Just insanity. We've got people from Italy driving up. You know, and we feel that we've driven for 4 hours. We're like, whoa, that was hard work. These guys are driving barn door vans, you know, for days and days. But that show just absolutely epic. There is nothing that comes close to the atmosphere, the madness. You know, they've got a disco with strippers, for God's sake. You know, what more could you ask for? But that would be, I suppose, yeah, my #1 sort of European show. But then, you know, you can't knock EBI, you know, European bugging. Crazy. You know, we've got the American guys over, so much fun. And yeah, the other is, you know, we've got Ninove as well. That's brilliant. That's on the streets. It's you know, really good fun. There's, you know, there's loads of great European shows. I could go on for hours with that, but yeah. Go on, let's leave it there.
What about the US or Asia or?
Yeah, well, I mean, suppose if you look at Asia, you've got. I've yet to go, but I know you've been over to Jakarta. So that's, you know, that would be the big show over there. I suppose the US shows. Oh Christ, you've got the buggies, you've got everything over there. But you know, I'm a big fan of the 4-day weekend event, and a lot of the US events tend to be like 1 day. You know, sort of people roll up, and by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they're kind of done. You know, yeah. I like to be there for 3 days, you know, so it's wearing the same clothes, just sweating it out, having fun. So, yeah. And obviously, you know, the British shows, Volksworld show, all of that stuff. But then also Stamford Hall, massive fan of Stamford Hall, you know, vintage shows. Christ, any show's good for me. So, yeah. So,
obviously, while we're on the subject of shows, you've been kind of really instrumental in the Volksworld show the last few years, or probably longer. And obviously 2020 has been a bit of a curveball. How are plans going for the reschedule for 3rd and 4th of October?
Well, no one could have, you know, when they said, hey, come and take over Volksworld, I was like, that sounds great, you know, what could possibly go wrong? Let's start by cancelling or postponing the show, you know, and then have a huge lockdown. You know, nobody saw that coming. The timing was just, you know, it was just atrocious. But, you know, we've rescheduled it. It's there for October 3rd, 4th. It's looking good. It will be the same show, I hope. But, hey, you know, none of us saw what's happened. Yeah. And we just got to take it day by day. But hopefully, fingers crossed, things will all be back on track. People will be coming. You know, I've spoken to a lot of the show car owners that they're interested. Obviously, we've got new show cars coming as well. So, yeah, you know, that one, all I can say really is watch this space. You know, watch the Volksworld Facebook page, read the magazine, it will be in there as well. You know, Instagram, everywhere. We will keep you posted, and hopefully we'll have no problems. We'll all be there. We'll be hanging out and having a beer and having a great time.
What do you think the best opportunity your career has presented you with is? What do you think is kind of maybe someone you've met, a car you've driven, or?
To be honest, I think the best opportunity has probably been the travel. Really, getting out and about, moving around. You know, sort of, you know, sitting down thinking, right, I've got 2 big European shows, 2 weekends running. What can I do in the week in between? You know, visit shops, that kind of stuff. It's been really good, sort of getting out and about, meeting people, and I suppose this is probably going to sound really, really strange, but press access is a big bonus. I mean, sort of joking aside, you know, like if we get back to Spa, well, yeah, well, that's every day. But there's you know, press access is great. You know, I've been to Spa, sat at the top of Eau Rouge, you know, probably the most famous corner on any racetrack, looking down on the greatest show on earth. You know, I'm up there photographing the car. I was like, you know, life doesn't get much better than this. So, you know, and meeting people, you know, that same show, I pop into a bar, bump into Bruce Myers. You know, he's the man that invented the Manx buggy. He's just sitting there. We'll stop and have a chat. And, you know, meeting people, you know, EBI, I had, you know, Keith had some of his American friends over. We had Ron Fleming sort of, you know, telling us crazy stories. I had the Schley's on the Ultra VW stand. signing autographs, drinking beer, and it's the opportunities to meet the people, to travel around, to get around. So you can't make that stuff up. It's just once in a lifetime stuff. So yes, it'll be good.
What would you like to see happen in the VW scene over the next 5 years? I think it's kind of.
I'd like to see the shows come back. I've missed on a weekly basis. Just watching the shows disappear, it's been horrendous. And for magazines, it's a big thing as well. Shows are a huge part of the content of a magazine. So without those, it's been difficult. But I don't necessarily think I'd like to see anything change with the scene, with the show scene. I think it's good, it's busy, and I really enjoy it. Back in the day, I used to enjoy the big party weekends and that kind of stuff. Now I tend to prefer, I don't know, like a camping weekend with some friends. We'll have a barbecue, a few beers, and a chat, that kind of stuff. And there's plenty of choice. Whatever you're into. And we've got some great vintage shows coming up. I don't think I'd change anything, because there literally is something for everyone out there at the moment.
Yeah. You regularly contribute to 911 and Porsche World and Classic Porsche magazine. Have you had any Porsches, or have you got one? Or I know you're not.
I have had a couple. I had a really shonky 75 911 Targa once. That wasn't great. But a few years ago, I had a 944 S2 3 litre. I know you're a 944 guys. We've spoken about these before, and that was a great car. I really enjoyed driving that. It was a lot of fun. It's so easy to drive as well. It was good. I had that until I broke it, obviously drifting, ripped the centre of the clutch out. So I sold that to Peter Simpson, wherever he is. I think he did some work on that, and I think he sold it to Greece, and it's a track car in Greece now, as far as I know. But I don't know. I did a lot of work on my dad had a 356, 356B, a really nice car. I did some mechanical work on that for him, and I used to love driving that thing around. That was a cool car. Yeah, but I haven't really had that many Porsche. I had a Porsche engine that I put into a 61 Beetle, so so that I can say I had a Beetle with a Porsche engine in, and that was a really cool car to drive. It basically drove like a 356, I suppose. So yeah, but I haven't really had. I'd love to have a Porsche, and actually the day I went out to buy, or the day I bought this T5, I actually went out to buy a 996 Porsche, and and I said to Jim, I went, "Hey, Jimbo's selling this T5. I've got to have a quick look." We stopped off, and I was like, "Oh, I'm a van man at the end of the day, aren't I?" So I bought the van, and the 996 went out the window. But I don't know, maybe if I sell this in the future, I might buy another later car like that, or a Boxster and put it on air, or have a midlife crisis, the sort of thing. So, yeah.
So, imagine if your numbers came up tomorrow, what would you have in your dream garage?
Oh, what would I have in my dream garage? I'd like to say not too much, but that would be lying. It would probably be. I'd probably spend a lot. Yeah, everyone would. Yeah. So what would I have? I suppose I'd probably like to have something really vintage, like a commander wagon, like an 82E commander wagon or something like, or maybe a swim wagon, because it's a car and it goes in the water. What's not to love about that? I'd love something truly vintage, but vintage, but a little bit out there, a little bit different. So I'd have that, and I'd love to have something like a Romech, like a B-Scout Romech or a Danaher Staus or something like that. Some kind of crazy coach build. That would be that would be awesome. Maybe with an Acrasa motor in it or something like that. And then or actually something like a Carrera, like quad cam Carrera GSGT 356. Something really quite special. What else? I don't know. I suppose something like a Westy Berlin or something like that, like a 2-litre auto with a trailer, so I could tow one of the other cars. I suppose that would be my kind of dream garage: a camper, a coach built, and a vintage car. Let's go with that. Yeah.
Would you keep doing the magazine stuff?
Absolutely, I would. Yeah, I think that's all that really keeps me sane, to be perfectly honest. I probably wouldn't do quite as many, 3 a.m. stints, getting deadlines done and that kind of stuff. I'd have to, it's what I do. It's what I love. If the last thing I do is take a photograph of a cool car and write a story, then I'm a winner. So that's all good. Yeah.
Wicked. Is there an aspect of the car scene which kind of excites you the most, whether it's shows or racing or kind of project road trips, etc.?
Yeah, I suppose that's probably changed over the years. You know, I was heavily into show cars for a long time. You know, built quite a few show cars, and that was very much my life. You know, get up, build the cars, polish the car, take it to the show, and then it all kind of changed. You know, I don't know. I suppose you just, you know, your taste developed, and as I got older, it became much more about the road trips, getting out and having fun. You know, enjoying yourself, and so yeah, I suppose now my favourite aspect would be the travel, the road trips, getting a couple of guys in there. You know, some of my greatest memories of road trips. You know, I've been on road trips with your man Ben Pascoe, and you know, you could literally write a book about those things. You know, no plan, no schedule, get in the van, drive for 10 hours. Fish in the night, see what happens, you know, wake up somewhere insane. So yeah, let's go road trips is my favourite bit, I think. Yeah.
Just going back to kind of the old days, is there an old show car you'd love to kind of discover in a dusty barn somewhere and bring back to life?
Oh yeah. To be honest, the old show cars that I love the most have probably all been restored and found. Cars like Billabug and like Bernard Newbury's gears kind of in decent hands, you know. I think if I was going in a bar looking for something, I'd almost prefer to find something like a right-hand drive oval, you know, dusty, crusty, put a battery on, start it up, drive it out, clean the windows, and just drive it. I think that's pretty much, you know, where my barn find thing would be.
Awesome. So we'll have a quick flick through here. We'll see whether anyone's kind of posted the questions up for me. We've exhausted my list so far.
Well, I haven't got any glasses, so yeah, you'll have to do the reading.
So what were you shooting today, if you can tell us, if it's not top secret?
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away because it'll be coming up in Volksworld, but it was a van. let's leave it there. But yeah, we've been out shooting loads of stuff lately. I've only just started, you know, to get back out and about, obviously, but it means there's a huge backlog of stuff that needs to be shot and photographed as soon as. But I've got some great freelancers, you know, they're all working really hard out doing stuff. I mean, this is the great thing with the with Volksworld now. You know, we've got we've kind of tagged it. Getting the band back together, you know. I've got Keith Hume on board. We've got Ivan McCutcheon coming back to do some writing for us. You know, I've got James Peen has written some stuff for the latest issue, and it's literally like a, you know, greatest hits of you know, VW editorial guys and photographers. We've got, you know, Docker he's covering you know, like the Asian stuff and also some European stuff. Stefan's in there. So yeah, we've got everyone out at the moment photographing cars. Easy.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, massive thanks for joining us this evening. We'll let you head off home for your tea, I guess.
That's exactly what I'm going to do.
For people who want to find you, you're at SS9 Design on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, on
Instagram. And then obviously to find out more about the show, Volksworld.com. Obviously, subscribe to the magazine, etc. on there.
Yeah, go hit up the Facebook page. Look up Volksworld on Facebook. Find me on Facebook as well. Come and see what we've been photographing and messing around with. Yeah. All good.
Awesome. Thank you very much. If there's anyone out there who'd like to kind of chat live with us, then yeah, drop us a DM. It would be really good to hear from you. Massive thanks to everyone for kind of tuning in, watching. We're going to be saving this for our Instagram TV, so you'll be able to kind of catch it up if you've missed bits. And also we'll put it onto Facebook as well as soon as technology allows us. So yeah, also catch up with our other Instagram TV stuff that we've put out past week. So really cool stuff on there. See you all soon. Stay safe. Thank you very much, Paul. Have a lovely
Thank you very much. See you all later on.
And yeah, catch you soon.
Still doing it.
Yeah, still doing it.